Good morning, everybody. It's Woke Wednesday, also known as Hump Day on the Morning Night Live. How you doing? I see a bunch of you are here, and I'm so glad to see you. So we're going to have in the immortal words of the Hodge twins, we're going to have a good show today. A damn good show. Anyway, it's a good show every day because it's the Morning Night Live. That's just how it is. Is it perfect? No, but it's good. So anyway, the name of the stream today is based on the first main article, but I'm going to skip because I have a bunch of news to hit first. Then we'll get into some of the Woke Wednesday stuff, and there's a couple funny things in there, and then that'll be the end of the show. It'll be all over in about 90 minutes. So welcome, and I'm going to play the intro so I can click a couple tabs that I forgot to click. So I'll see you in about a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way, but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, PDawg Knight. The music. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I'm your host, Marty, also known as Dawg Knight on the internet. And welcome back to the Dawg Knight Channel on this fantastic Hump Day Wednesday, the 14th of April, 2020. Now, in most years, you would have to have your taxes done by tomorrow, but apparently the federal government has extended tax day to May 15th this year. Like last year, I think they moved it to July 15th. So if you're one of those people who are last minute, I resemble that remark, you have another, I think, 30 days to get in. You better double check that. They wrote something in the paper a while back, and I don't even remember if that's even true. So I guess we'll find out. No, I'll have mine. Actually, I'm going to be submitting mine tomorrow. I'm almost done with mine. Anyway, happy Hump Day. It is the 573rd episode of the Morning Night Live, and we already got 30 people here, so that's fantastic. I love to see it. Let's say good morning, everybody, and then we're going to jump into it because I got a few just news stories that gotta go, and then we'll continue on to just all the rest of the stuff that we do on this show. But first in the chat today was our friend Thomas Cleaver, who gets the bell. Good morning, sir. I hope you're enjoying your very, very bright and early morning down under in the great country of New Zealand, the beautiful land of grass and livestock and great people. I've never met a New Zealander that I didn't like. Even who's the dude who used to be on YouTube? And I haven't seen much of him lately. Tim something. And he's a kind of a lefty, but he was such a nice guy. It was hard to dislike the guy. You know, just such a nice dude. But anyway, also good morning, my friend Richo from Down Under. Also, how you doing, my friend? Good morning, Maddie and Ronan. Wait a minute. Oh, my little things moved here because I added a new sound effect and they got shifted. But hey, Maddie and Ronan, good morning. I hope you're driving safely today. Good morning also, Advocatus Diabli, the Devil's Advocate, Maniac Man, Renee Mayette. How you doing? Good morning, Selecta Boy.
Yeah, boy.
And James PFP, Willett Forge. What's happening? Uncle Bad Touch.
Come on, man.
We know who you really are. We know. We all know. Good morning, Jonathan Peterson. Good morning, D.I. Freighter Watcher. Good morning, too. Jaeger Pony, my favorite Canadian. Also, hello, Justin Anderson. Hig 1966. Hello, Cindy in the background. Amy in Connecticut's in the house. Also, Hyman Lyman. Stan, what's happening? Attack Alpaca. Attack Alpaca's in the house. Good morning to you. Good morning, Sapphire Dragon. Tarai Deos, Jedi Ghost Bear, Black Hebrew Israelite.
That's right.
Good morning also, Zablé. And did I skip over some people here anywhere? I hope not. If I did, just keep talking. I'll notice, and hopefully I did not. Did I miss you? Oh, Jonathan Peterson. Did I say Jonathan Peterson? I think I did. I didn't say Jonas Pedersen because Jonas Pedersen's not here yet, but Jonathan Peterson is in the house. All right, let's get to it quick because I got so many tabs open. I really want to try to get to some of them. I always miss about 5 or 6, but if you of the articles that I also, if I don't get to them all, I'm still going to put them in the description down below immediately after the show. After the show, I drop a link which will have every article that we talk about today and maybe the ones we don't get to in one single link that will get, once you click that link, all the articles will be listed as links in the in that link called a one tab. So it'll all be in one place. If you, especially if you want to, if you go through something that you're like, oh, I'm thinking about doing a video about that. I wanted to remember where that was. Can you send it to me? Well, I won't have to. All you got to do is come back to to this video that turns into a video, or this link to this stream, and it'll be in the description down below on the daily. Also, good morning, infamous one. Nice to have you here again. All right. So, just some news items that I wanted to get to. Oh, wait, real quick. Let me do some thank yous first Also, quick thank yous to Becca Farley, who tweeted out the show early. Also, Willett Forge retweeting the tweet of the tweet. And also, thank you, Maddie Walker. Maddie Walker. I like that. By the way, I was on Lords of the Night last night. And that was kind of fun, hanging out with Scribe and Satsu and being a guest. Hopefully I can do that more often, although I shouldn't do it on Wednesdays or Tuesdays. Not the smartest thing for me to do because I get up really early in the morning and it keeps me up kind of late for my normal routine. But I had quite enjoyed it last night. So if you happen to go on a Scribe Lights channel and check out last night's episode of Lords of the Night. Good morning, Ebony Williams. Good morning, Gamer Valine. How you doing? Thank you for being here. So anyway, and then also follow me on social media: Twitter, Minds, Gab, Parler, CloudHub, all at PDawgKnight. Or if you want to see me on, I do also post videos on Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, which is library or Odyssey, whatever. And occasionally I also stream this on Trovo or D Live. If I ever have a YouTube mishap, so to speak, I will probably move the live stream to one of those channels. I'm not simulcasting on them anymore because I'm still trying to make sure that I'm trying to figure out what the heck's going on with my why my streaming was being goofy for a while. So we'll make sure that that's fixed. And once I fix that, I'll be streaming on all those channels. So anyway, the big, some news items that are of interest because of the things we talk about on this show. Apparently, oops, there we go. Oh, why is that offset? Here, let me get this. Let me center this again before I put it on the screen. All right. Apparently Nancy Pelosi has invited our president to a joint session of Congress, and he has accepted that invitation. Now, I don't know if it's like, so what happens? See, the Speaker of the House, they invite the president to do the State of the Union, and we haven't done a State of the Union. Normally, a State of the Union is like, February or January, or no, usually in February, right? But they didn't do one this year because Joe has his issues, you know.
You know the thing.
He forgets that he has trouble keeping his train of thought, kind of like I'm having right now. But mine is not necessarily age-induced, which his might be. I'm not a doctor, but I play one in. Well, I shouldn't talk about when I play doctor, but anyway, he's accepted it. Now, is it going to? It says to address a joint session of Congress, so I'm assuming it's going to be televised, and it'll be interesting because he can't. How long he's going to do it? You notice that one press conference, or he came out and did a speech once about the stupid 19, right? From the country of origin that shall not be named, and he never speaks more than 20 minutes at any given time. And the State of the Union addresses are usually hour 15 minutes. You know, I don't think Joe can speak that long, and ever keep a train of thought. If you noticed, he has some what known as brain farts, brain gaps, brain mishaps all the time, and I don't know how it's going to work. And people notice it. Now, some people don't want you to admit it, but good Lord, the man is a little bit addled, if you ask me. Mike Savage, good morning. Blarg. Also, good morning, Beck Farley. I think I already said hi though, didn't I? I don't know. I will never not say it twice. Also, nobody, not me. What's happening? Nice to see you in the chat. So anyway, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has invited President Biden to address a joint session of Congress later this month. The California Democrats sent Biden a letter asking him to give his first speech to Congress on April 28th, according to a statement from her office. Nearly 100 days ago, when you took the oath of office, you pledged. Sorry, this is Nancy Pelosi speaking. Excuse me. Oh, by the way, hang on. This is necessary. I do have my cup of reparations in hand in the Papa Bear cup, and it is delicious. Everybody take a sip. Okay. Nearly 100 days ago, when you took the oath of office, you pledged in the spirit of great hope that help is on the way. Now, because of your historic and transformative leadership, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time not laughing during this. Your historic and transformative leadership, help is here. Open Biden. Pelosi wrote the letter. Okay, the open Biden part was not there. Hello, Katie did skate. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. Why did they put this twice? In that spirit, I'm writing to invite you to address a joint session of Congress on Wednesday, April 28th, to share your vision for addressing challenges and opportunities of this historic moment. Sorry, I know it's hard to listen to me talk like her. Anyway, I forgot to hit that. I did a LOL to Will It Forge, and I didn't hit it. Anyway, Will It Forge, that was funny, but it was a long time ago. Presidents typically make the address in the first few weeks after entering the White House, but it is not called a State of the Union speech, which comes in the second year of the term. Biden, however, has waited way longer than his modern-day predecessors to give his debut address. Members of the House and Senate usually cram into the House chamber for a joint session, but because of the coronavirus, in the middle of a pandemic, issues like occupancy limits for that room had to be discussed before setting a date, Pelosi previously said. A White House official said Biden would be accepting the invite. If they were worried about having, being too close together because of in the middle of a pandemic, they could have gone into he could have done it like at the Washington National Stadium, or maybe one of the arena where what's the Washington basketball team called? Not the Bullets. What are they? Oh, what the hell are they? The Wizards? Are the Wizards still a team? I don't even know. I'm confused. Does the Washington Wizards still exist? I'm a basketball guy, and I don't even know if the Washington Wizards still exist. Washington Wizards. Let's see. Washington Wizards basketball. Apparently they do. Okay, fantastic. Anyway, so so why don't they go in like the Wizards arena or something? Go in a bigger. Don't do it in the. I'm sure they can. It's what the hell. They spend enough money. I think they can afford to go in the Washington Wizards stadium. No, the Capitals are the hockey team. John Arnott. Hello, John Arnott, by the way. No, that's hockey. Yes, they exist. I know. Isn't that's so wrong that I don't know that. Anyway, let's see, where was I? But because of the coronavirus pandemic issues, in the middle of a pandemic, the occupancy limits for that room had to be discussed before setting a date. A White House official said Biden would accept the invite. The president has accepted the invitation of the Speaker of the House to address a joint session of Congress on April 28th, the night before his 100th day in office. My goodness, and he will be touting all his great accomplishments, and I bet he won't say one word about the border. So there you go. Let's see, other not breaking news, but important news. Johnson & Johnson blood clots. What to know about the potentially dangerous condition? You know, nothing breeds more confidence in the stupid 19 stabs than a company that is having to be suspended because there seems to be an issue with blood clots. So the federal officials on Tuesday pulled the brakes on the use of Johnson & Johnson's stab after reports of 6 patients experiencing blood clots and a stroke-like illness, including one who died. The Food and Drug Administration and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said they're using the pause to look into whether the episodes are linked to the single-dose stab, as well as to educate patients and health professionals about the condition. We're recommending the pause while we work together to fully understand these events and so we can get information out to healthcare providers and stab recipients, acting FDA Commissioner Janet Woodcock said. And there's a list here. Tell you what, if you want to know, you can read this article. It'll be in the tabs, but it just gives you a list of things to think about. Now, 6 women whose ages from 18 to 48 experienced severe stroke-like illness on an average of 9 days after receiving the Johnson & Johnson stab. Official says the FDA said that the cases involved rare blood clots known as cerebral venous sinus thrombosis, or CVST, which draw blood from the brain along the lower platelet counts. Along with lower platelet counts, a condition known as thrombocytopenia. One woman died and a second woman was hospitalized in critical condition. Not all, possibly none of the women have pre-existing conditions, officials said. Interesting. When I was an avid blood donor, actually I was a platelet donor. They for whatever reason, I seem to produce more platelets than your normal average person. And so they would like I'd have 2 tubes, one in one arm where it was going out, and one the other arm where they spin the platelets off and then they come back in the other arm and put it back in, and then you walk away and it's not like actually even giving blood. But yeah, interesting. This is remember now. So if this is the cause of that demise of that woman, her family can't sue Johnson & Johnson because they've been given immunity on the not yet FDA-approved stabs. And those who are looking at me going, well, they are approved by the FDA. No, they're not. They are authorized for emergency use. They have not yet been approved, but there are places around the country where they're already telling you you can't go into their state if you don't have a stab passport for stupid 19. Huh. Now, fortunately, by the way, because and there's some other stuff. Who's being affected, whatnot. It's women. What are the symptoms? It gives you a lot of information. If you have possibly taken one of the Johnson & Johnson stabs, this is going to be important information for you. Now, remember, 6 people out of probably, I would guess, hundreds of thousands that have had this particular stab. But it is a concern. Okay, so just FYI, the information will be in the links down below. Real quick, good morning, Moon-Based Radio. How you doing? Anna Lynn's in the house. T-Ball. And somebody else came in that I didn't say hi to yet. Or did they? Oh, I think that's it. Okay, so good morning, everybody. I am so glad you all are here. It's just wonderful that for whatever reason, y'all think it's worth coming and listening to me in the mornings because hopefully I give you good information too. All right, let's move into a little bit of the trial that's happening right down the road from me. I'm not going to talk about oh, by the way, there was another night of unrest last night, but not as bad, not as many arrests, not as many people injured and whatnot. There was some officers injured a lot of the 2 nights, and obviously a lot of things were broken into it a little bit. It seems to be dying down a little bit. And I don't have the thing on here. Oh, well, we have our first sponsor of the day. Thank you, GunFox61. I'm going to replay it because I didn't realize I had this muted. So here we go. Oh, that didn't work. What the hell? Oh, there you go. Thank you, GunFox61. First donor of the day. And guess what?
You are the new Streamlabs Superstar Donor of the Day.
Thank you, sir, and welcome to the show. Pedo Joe, 100 Days of Failures, Border Crisis, China about to attack Taiwan, Russia attacking Ukraine once again, hint, hint, hint. CCP lockdown continues. Liberal cities on fire. BLM rioting, and oh yeah, Chinese spies in universe. Yes, those are the accomplishments of the Biden administration. Welcome to Biden's America. Yeah, I hit that button too many times if you can't tell, so you got a little extra there. Anyway, thank you so much, GunFox61, for sponsoring the show. If you would like to sponsor the show today, this episode, or the channel in general, you can do that through YouTube SuperChats, which are in that little thing down there in the YouTube thing, or better yet, Streamlabs also pops up in the chat once in a while, and you can the link is in the description down below. And thanks for those of you who are able to do that. That's fantastic because eventually I'm going to drop one of these 3 jabs I have on top of this. So and you guys are helping me do that as we grow the channel. So I appreciate that. All right, let's get into the Chauvin trial a little bit. Couple articles on that. Prosecution arrested the Chauvin trial, and the jury is told to, quote, pack a bag, end quote. Now, I missed that part yesterday, so I'm not even sure what this is. I haven't even read this article. I read the other one. The hand-picked private attorneys acting as prosecutors have rested their case against Derek Chauvin, the now former Minneapolis police officer who was seen in a video holding down George Floyd, St. George. Honestly, I shouldn't make fun of St. George because, honestly, I don't. First of all, I don't know that the man, one, didn't deserve to die. Okay, now, is his demise? Is he at all responsible for his own demise? Absolutely. There would be no situation had George Floyd not had the issues that he had. However, doesn't mean he deserved to die. What he deserved as a person who was committing whatever act of fraud or whatever by passing a fake 20, deserved to be prosecuted by the law and have due process like everybody else. And unfortunately, whatever reason he passed away, it seems to me, as I read things, clearly the substances in his system caused him to no longer be able to breathe even before he was on the ground with Officer Chauvin. And clearly that was a problem, and that's why he was on the ground, because he refused to go in the car because he was having trouble breathing and he wanted to lay down. And so the issue, as I've said from the very beginning in my mind, and I'm not a legal scholar or anything like that, but it seems as though the problem with the Chauvin case is that Derek Chauvin, once this man lost consciousness and wasn't breathing, if he had made an attempt to revive him, he may not be going through this trial right now. And so there's a form of negligence on his part, where at least had he had better situational awareness, which is one of my favorite phrases regarding this thing, had he had better situational awareness, maybe he would have been able to help George Floyd and we wouldn't be going through this mayhem that we've been going through for over a year. So I think he does have some culpability because of his lack of situational awareness and not being aware of what was happening below him. Clearly, there were some distractions around him. With 4 officers nearby, or 3 other officers helping him, I think there should have been an opportunity for them to at least attempt to revive George Floyd. Whether that would have been successful or not, maybe it's unlikely, but we'll never know, unfortunately. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. Again, Chauvin is accused 3 counts in the prosecution's hope that the grand jury will get him something, or get him on something, or that the jury will get him on something. The 3rd count, which had been tossed by the trial judge, was added back when the prosecutors appealed to a higher court. ABC 10 News talked to a local law expert who broke down the charges against the former officer. Now, this is a professor from the University of St. Thomas, which my son is an alumni of that school, or alumni, whatever, from that school. Quote, none of the charges require the state to prove that Derek Chauvin intentionally killed Mr. Floyd, said Rachel Moran, a professor at the University of St. Thomas Law School in Minneapolis. The difference in the 3 charges is really mostly about Derek Chauvin's mental state. The first charge of 2nd-degree unintentional felony murder, the state needs to prove Chauvin committed a felony, in this case, assault, and it led to Floyd's death. That's going to be very hard to prove, just because of the fact that he was following police procedures. You'd have to have an intentional assault, and I don't think they can prove that part. So, even so, and what unintentional felony murder says is that if you are in the act of committing a felony and somebody gets killed, that is the unintentional felony murder. So I don't know if they're going to be able to prove that one. And Moran said that means proving Chauvin knew he was committing a crime and that he was assaulting Floyd when the 46-year-old died as a result. The charge of 3rd-degree depraved mind murder means that the prosecution must prove Chauvin caused the death of Floyd with an act imminently dangerous to others without regard for human life. Maybe. As defense attorney Robert Barnes explains, the prosecution must have established intent to cause seriously bodily harm under manslaughter count, and still must prove intent that Chauvin thought he was going to kill Floyd in the top count against him. The prosecution case was spread over 12 days. Attorneys chosen by Antifa-friendly Attorney General Keith Ellison spent much of the first week with a parade of people on the street that day who had no expertise whatsoever, who saw some of the interactions between police and Floyd. Nearly all of them cried on the stand. The witnesses included Floyd's fiancée, Courtney Ross, who testified that Floyd, as she called him, was with his drug dealer at the time. The cops came on the day he died. She testified Floyd was back on drugs after a brief period of sobriety, had nearly died 2 months before due to an overdose of similar drugs he'd been given the day of his death, and that he called her mama. Floyd may have referred to her when he cried out during his arrest. Yeah, remember how the people was, he was calling for his mama. He was so afraid he was calling for his mama. No, now we're finding out it might have been her he was calling for. That Floyd was with his drug dealer in the Mercedes SUV when cops rolled up came as a surprise to most people. Evidence was presented of Floyd and Maurice Hall, his alleged drug dealer, getting rid of pills and fake $20 bills was brought out by the defense in cross-examination. Police found half-eaten pills with Floyd's DNA in the Mercedes and in the police car where Floyd initiated his fight with his first officers on the scene. He began his numerous protestations that he couldn't breathe at the point when cops were only trying to get him in the back of the squad car because his lungs were filling up with fluid and foam from the effects of fentanyl. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it. Floyd's dealer refused to testify in the case since his actions that day, giving Floyd drugs, could have been responsible for his death. Hall took the fifth to avoid incriminating himself. Following those witnesses, the prosecution called a parade of expert witnesses, many of whom worked for free because they felt so strongly about the case. Each witness had his or her reasons for volunteering for duty, and you can probably figure those out. It was at the point where Nelson showed a use of force expert's video of Chauvin's knee not being on the neck of George Floyd. The prosecution immediately pivoted from saying George Floyd died from Chauvin's knee on his neck and began describing it as, quote, the neck area, end quote, which magically covered his back and shoulders. It was a remarkable departure from the narrative we've been sold by prosecutors and the media for nearly a year now. Although you wouldn't know that if you were watching any of the major news media talking about this on TV. You would almost think that there was no defense questions throughout this trial, because I swear, even the local news here, they pretty much stick to what the prosecution is and telling how the prosecution said this and they said this against George Floyd and this was damning, and never even mentioning the problems that the defense brought up. It's so weird. It's so much like it's almost like they have an agenda, huh? You know? Anyway, up to this point, the prosecution hadn't laid out its theory for how Floyd died, but from then on, it shape shifted from being the neck hold on the prone position to the prone position the police laid him in. Actually, Floyd laid himself down when the police relented after grappling with him. Eventually, the prosecution settled on lack of oxygen for his cause of death, to which you might think, no kidding, but there is more to it than that. Defense attorney Nelson expertly picked apart most of the prosecution's witness in this phase and indeed planned to bring back one of the witnesses for the defense. The prosecution, however, pulled its case out of the crapper with its medical experts. This is when the prosecution began to hone in on the reason for Floyd's death. One of the most bizarre experts was one of the most quoted on social media, Dr. Martin Tobin, who came bearing a collection of unique models which had been handed over to defense attorney Eric Nelson only the night before. Nelson looked the next day as if he'd spent all night trying to make sense of them. Tobin said he was sure by watching the videos of the incident exactly when Floyd died. The testimony didn't comport with use of force experts and was a departure from other experts, but the pulmonologist said with certainty exactly when Floyd suffered brain damage and died. Yeah, he's clairvoyant, by the way. He also said with certainty that Floyd's 90% and 75% blockages of his heart, the deadly dose of fentanyl and meth combo, smoking cigarettes, COVID, and fighting with the cops, had nothing whatsoever to do with Floyd not getting enough oxygen. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that's going to get picked apart. And that Floyd wouldn't have died but for Chauvin's knee being somewhere on Floyd. Tobin's claim blew up what we non-experts have been told about COVID, smoking, and fentanyl. So yeah, anyway, in fact, this is interesting. Things we learned today from state's witness at Chauvin on trial. 1, smoking doesn't harm most people's lungs. It's really hard to die from fentanyl. It's laughable. Floyd's heart condition had an impact. He couldn't breathe in the car before Chauvin got there, but he died from Chauvin's knee. So anyway, even Attorney Barnes was shaking his head over this testimony. Tobin said that he died at the 4 or 5 minute mark of the video. If so, the question of turning him over, not providing CPR in front of a hostile crowd and all that stuff happens after Tobin said he was dead. So that can't be a legal factor now under Tobin's own theory. The prosecution chose to put the only witness who examined Floyd's body at the tail end of their medical expert testimony. This is because he'd already gone rogue by declaring that Floyd probably died of a fentanyl overdose, suggesting Chauvin had nothing to do with it. The Hennepin County medical examiner said that if he'd just seen Floyd's toxicology testing, he would have declared him to be an overdose death. The 15-person jury, 12 juries, and 3 alternates in the Chauvin trial were told by the judge to, quote, pack a bag, end quote, and get ready to go into sequestration for their jury deliberations. They will be under heavy security and sequestration, as they have been since the beginning of the trial, due to the threat of civil unrest, the already happening civil unrest, and the planned civil unrest, regardless of what the verdict is in this case. The defense, which opened its case immediately after the prosecution rested, is expected to take only 3 days to put on, more on that later. The jury is expected to get the case Monday, which was a couple days ago, after closing arguments. Oh, no, next Monday. I'm sorry, this coming Monday. Good morning, Sean DW. Hello, Johnny Hellcat, the original viewer of the Morning Night Live, and I think that's everybody. All right, there's also a second article here from Legal Insurrection, and it was just the jury instructions and bring on the defense case. Both sides will argue for modification to standard Minnesota instructions. Welcome to an ongoing. This is Andrew Brock on Legal Insurrection has been a valuable resource for me on this case, or at least learning about it. And it's kind of the same as the PJ Media article, so it just has more details and also has defense motion, proposed jury instructions. So if you want to check that out, and also the prosecution's proposed jury instructions, I'm not going to go through them, but it's a very interesting read. So I'm going to have it in the tab, so check it out. Let's see now. And then let's see, what's this one? And then other news before we get into the Woke Wednesday stuff. The officer who shot and paralyzed Jacob Blake has been reinstated without charges after an investigation. I remember this is the Kenosha, Wisconsin case. The Kenosha Police Department announced Tuesday that the officer who shot and paralyzed Jacob Blake would be reinstated without charges after an independent investigation. Wisconsin police officer Rustin Shesky shot Blake seven times in the back following an August 2020 confrontation after Blake refused to follow police commands and attempted to enter the driver's side of his car. A knife was later discovered on the floorboard of the vehicle, according to NPR. Blake was ultimately left paralyzed. And there's the press release there. Chief Daniel Miskinis said in a Tuesday press release that an outside agency had investigated the incident and that it had been reviewed by an independent expert as well as the Kenosha County District Attorney. And he was not charged with any wrongdoing. He acted within the law and was consistent with training. This incident was also reviewed internally. Officer Shesky was found to have been acting within policy and will not be subject to discipline, the press release stated. And then finally, interestingly enough, there hasn't been seem to be any additional mayhem in Kenosha after this happened. Now, at least that made any news. So who knows? Maybe the fact that when Blake got on an interview on TV and said, yeah, I had a knife. Who knows? I'm not sure if there's going to be, I haven't heard anything about a civil trial in this. I'm sure there will be. We'll see what happens. Thank you, Rod Line, and welcome to the show. And also, good morning, Mr. Yes. Rod Line sponsoring the show with a special caliber for shooting varmints. Coming out of last night, the riot looks weak. So far, it's been a bad spring training. I think they need to add a closer, one who can toss that Molotov cocktail down the middle as post-trial season approaches. The Riot have a disappointing season ahead. Yes, thank you for the baseball analogies and for sponsoring the show. Thank you, Rod Line. I greatly appreciate it. All right, let's get into a couple woke items today. This is when I named the stream today. What's that going on? When I named the stream today, Pushback, this is something that I think we need more of. I think we need more pushback on some of the woke crap. And so this student at the University of Virginia is about to sue the school. Ex-UVA student, the judge has allowed him to do it. Ex-UVA student can sue school after asking questions during a panel that got him expelled, according to a judge. A former University of Virginia medical student can proceed with a lawsuit against the school over his expulsion. which stemmed from questions he asked about the nuance of microaggressions during a panel discussion that led him to being branded a threat. See, this is what they do. They want to make you a threat. It's a constant. It's a tactic that's just BS. Okay. Good morning, Zan Wild. How you doing? Kieran. Oh my God, how do you say his name? I'm going to try this, but I may butcher it. Kieran Bhattacharya sued the prestigious state university for violating his First Amendment rights, and a judge denied the school's attempt to have it tossed last week, court records show. The trouble for Bhattacharya began in October 2018 when the then second-year medical student attended a panel discussion on the subject of microaggressions. That's why this is part of Woke Wednesday. The term is defined by Merriam-Webster as a comment or action that subtly and often unconsciously or unintentionally expresses a prejudiced attitude towards a member of a marginalized group, such as a racial minority. Now, it's funny because when you add the term aggression into that, isn't aggression normally intentional? I just don't get it. Anyway, during a question and answer portion of the panel, Bhattacharya, I'm getting better at that, aren't I? Bhattacharya sought clarification on the definition of microaggression, asking the presenter, Assistant Dean Beverly Cowell Adams, if only marginalized groups were impacted by it. Court records show. Good morning, Grill and Pie Repeat. Adams said it was a very good question, and the answer is no. Wait, what was the question? If only marginalized groups were impacted by it. And she said no. And then Bhattacharya cut in and said her slide indicated victims of microaggressions must be members of marginalized groups. So that's contradictory, Bhattacharya said, because she said no, it doesn't only. The question was if only marginalized groups were impacted by it. She said no. He said so that's contradictory, because okay. And then he said, let's see, what I had there is kind of the generalized definition. In fact, I extended it beyond that. As you see, I extended it to any marginalized group, and sometimes it's not a marginalized group. There are examples that you would think maybe not fit, such as body size, height, or weight, and if that is how you would like to see me expand it, yes, indeed, that's how I do, Adams replied. Yeah, follow-up question. This is what Bhattacharya said after this. Yeah, follow-up question. Exactly how do you define marginalized, and who is a marginalized group? Where does that go? I mean, it seems extremely nonspecific, Bhattacharya followed up. Adams replied, quote, that's intention, end quote, and it's, quote, intentional to make it more nonspecific, end quote, while Bhattacharya continued to challenge her, essentially arguing that the definition and logic behind microaggressions were anecdotal and not backed up by hard scientific data. Another dean stepped in and told a story about how former peers and colleagues subjected her to, quote, harmless jokes, end quote, and microaggressions related to stereotypes about people who come from rural states like she did. Oh, my God. I'm getting the vapors. Thank you. This is Kyle, who says, hello, chat people and P-Dawg. Well, hello to you too, Kyle. Thanks for being here. So in total, Bhattacharya, Adams, and the other dean debated back and forth on the semantics of the term for just over 5 minutes during the event. Now, later that day, assistant urology professor Noah Kern, who helped organize the panel and was in attendance, filed a professionalism concern card against Bhattacharya, saying he, quote, asked a series of questions that were quite antagonistic. He pressed on and stated stated one faculty member was being contradictory. Well, no, he didn't. He said the definition was contradictory. His level of frustration and anger seemed to escalate until another faculty member defused the situation. Wow, you can't even have a discussion about microaggressions without seeming angry and frustration. And then by calling on another student for questions. I am shocked that a med student would show so little respect towards faculty members. It worries me how he will do on wards. Wards? Oh, Kern wrote, the court records show. An assistant dean at the school then asked to meet with Bhattacharya, saying he observed his, quote, discomfort, end quote, during the panel and wanted to help him understand and be able to cope with unintended consequences of conversation. Seems like they're microaggressing him, doesn't it? Although more like macroaggressing him. Good morning, Michael Hatfield and Humble Clay. The student wrote back and said any perceived discomfort was false. I was quite happy that the panel gave me so much time to engage with them about the semantics regarding the comparison of microaggressions and barbs. I have no problems with anyone on the panel. I simply wanted to give them some basic challenges regarding the topic, and I understand that there's a wide range of acceptable interpretations on this. I would be happy to meet with you at your convenience to discuss this further, the student replied, while another dean asked to meet with Bhattacharya. The Academic Standards and Achievement Committee met to discuss the concern card and decided to send the student a letter to remind him to be respectful and professional and to suggest he get counseling. However, that suggestion soon became a mandate. The court records show they required him to get counseling for asking too many questions. Wow. I thought part of the being in a college setting is that you would be able to have inquiry and actually understand things and be able to challenge and think for yourself. But no. Listen and obey, damn it. Personally, I think we should resist.
Resist we much.
Bhattacharya received an email in late November saying he must be evaluated by the school's counseling and psychological services. What the fuck did they do here? Okay, I just swore. Offices before he could return to class. When he asked what exactly he did wrong and under what authority the school could mandate that he be psychologically evaluated, he was invited to attend the ASAC meeting that was convened to discuss his enrollment status. My God, court documents say, at the hearing, which Bhattacharya claims he was only given 3 hours to prepare for, a student recorded audio and took photographs of the attendees and was criticized for doing so. Oh, the student. Yeah, he recorded it. He was told the reason for the hearing was because of recent concerning behaviors and interactions at the panel meeting and after. My God, you cannot question this at all. The group voted to suspend Bhattacharya for aggressive and inappropriate interactions in multiple situations. And about a month later, oh my God, the University of Virginia police demanded he leave campus for allegedly making threatening comments on social media platforms. They took this to the 100th floor, didn't they? Bhattacharya later brought a suit against the school alleging it violated his First Amendment rights, his 14th Amendment rights to due process, and conspired to interfere with his civil rights and injure him professionally. The school said Bhattacharya didn't have a claim, calling the allegations baseless, and wrote in a brief that he was thrown out because he violated the school's professionalism standards. My God. A federal judge agreed with the school in part and dismissed every count except the First Amendment violation, which he upheld, allowing the case to move forward. The UVA spokesman told the Post in an email, as a matter of practice, the university does not comment on the specifics of pending litigation, but it did say it is worth noting the court's recent ruling based only on the facts as alleged by the plaintiff and must accept all of those allegations as true at this stage of the proceedings. All but one of the claims in this case has been dismissed, the spokesman continued. and we are confident that the remaining claim is without merit. Holy shit. Save an FTG for the University of Virginia tomorrow. All right, now, let's see what's going on here. Anyway, so yeah. So if you're a student, don't get caught up in this discussion of why microaggressions are indeed straight bullshit. Okay. A microaggression, it's like, come on. So a microaggression is saying or doing something that you didn't know was what you were saying or doing, but you can be faulted for it. And the idea that it's a microaggression, even though you didn't aggress anybody because you didn't take a attendant action, which would be aggression, is still considered aggression, even though it's micro and usually insignificant. And it sounds to me like you could call just about anything a microaggression, as I've learned over the years. All right, let's move on to a couple sources that I don't necessarily respect, but I found the articles fascinating. Here's an article from Vox entitled, "The Claim That Drugs Killed George Floyd Relies on a Racist Trope."
That's racist!
You know, this article goes to prove that if you don't like the way something's going, all you got to do is call it racist, and maybe someone will listen to you. And the subtitle is, "In the Derek Chauvin trial, the defense attempt to blame George Floyd's death on drug use relies on retrograde and racist myths." Huh. Now, what's fascinating, just the fact that they had the nerve to write this article when we know from the trial George Floyd almost died from a certain similar combination of drugs not even a week earlier. He was in the hospital almost dead. So I'm not sure what's racist unless his entire history is something racist about it. But anyway, this is written by somebody named Carl L. Hart, who says, "My emotions." Wait, hold on. If the article begins with "my emotions," the first two words in the article, "my emotions," how much fact do you think is going to be in this article? Just curious. "My emotions teeter between exasperation and outrage each day. Each day I read the trial recap of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, who is charged with killing George Floyd. I'm not naive. I know how these killer cop trials go." A little bit of a bias there. "The defense drags the deceased victim's reputation through the mud." Now, here's his quote. He quotes this. Now, I'm not sure who he's quoting here, but he puts this in quotes. Quote, "He was a big black man prone to violence," end quote. Who's the hell's he quoting? Is that, I want to check the trial transcript for that one. Or, quote, "He was under the influence of a drug," end quote. There's a toxicology report, I think. I'm pretty sure there's one. "To create a smokescreen to generate empathy for the cop. From Michael Brown to Philando Castile, too many judges and juries have fallen victim to this tired ploy. The drug-crazed Negroes." The quote. Again, he puts this in quotes. Again. And full quotes, not like hypothetical quotes, single quotes, but double quotes, full quotes. Quote, "drug-crazed Negro," end quote, script. I want to find who used the words in a trial or anywhere else, quote, drug crazed Negro, end quote. I want to know who said it. I want a citation. Citation needed. Hello, T-Ball. How you doing? When a white police officer kills a black person. What about if it was a black police officer? Like in the Freddie Gray case, there was a black police officer. They blame. That went to trial. Anyway, true to form, Mr. Chauvin's lawyers have tried to deflect blame from his brutal act onto the drugs found in Mr. Floyd's body at the time of his death. Oh, at least you're admitting there were drugs in his body. And again, I'm not saying that Chauvin didn't do anything wrong, but this is crazy talk here to this guy. Quote, the evidence will show. Okay, now this might actually be a quote. Quote, evidence will show that Mr. Floyd died of cardiac arrhythmia that occurred as a result of hypertension, his coronary disease, ingestion of methamphetamine and fentanyl, and the adrenaline flowing through his body, end quote. Now that is a quote. Defense attorney Eric Nelson told the jury. In other words, Mr. Floyd might still be alive today had he not taken drugs. Shame on us if we buy this bogus defense this time. Medical examiner seems to think that might have been a possibility, because had he not known about the situation, he said that, yeah, this guy probably died of this overdose. That's why his lungs were 2.5 times their normal weight filled with fluid. But I digress. Anyway, quote, I am a neuropsychopharmacologist who researches drug addiction. Oh, so this is somewhat of an expert. My work has focused on the unjust and unscientific stigmas surrounding drug use and the criminalization of drugs around the globe. The defense's attempt to paint Mr. Floyd as a crazed drug addict relies on the retrograde myths about the impact of drugs on our bodies and minds. Now, are we talking about the guy who almost died from that same drug combination in an overdose a little bit earlier in the year? Interesting. While it's true Mr. Floyd had small amounts of methamphetamine and THC, the primary psychoactive ingredients in marijuana, in his blood, 19 and 2.9 nanograms per milliliter retrospectively, those numbers strongly suggest he hadn't used them in at least several hours, maybe a day. Well, that's light years from when he passed away. Also, Mr. Floyd's methamphetamine levels were far below those I have found in my laboratory research on dozens of participants, necessarily to induce significantly elevated cardiovascular activity, greater than 25 nanograms per milliliter. The amount of methamphetamine and THC found in Mr. Floyd's blood was too low for it to have had any meaningful effect on him. Okay. Combination. Oh, now he gets to the fentanyl. Okay. His blood also had 11 nanograms of fentanyl, America's latest vilified drug. We're seeing a rash of fentanyl overdoses in this country right now. Recreational used fentanyl. And latest vilified drug. Okay. That's an interesting description. Or its analogs. That is laced with, he also had, his blood also had 11 nanograms of fentanyl, America's latest vilified drug. Fentanyl, or its analogs, that is laced with heroin or other drugs and sold illegally for recreational use, can be very dangerous or deadly. But it's important that we don't fall prey to misinformed and dangerous myths about the drug. Media reports, government agencies, and law enforcement have repeatedly claimed that minuscule amounts of skin exposure to the drug can cause overdose. This is incontrovertibly false. As fear around fentanyl grows, so does criminalization. In Florida, for example, a fentanyl-related overdose death can result in a drug-induced homicide charge for traffickers, even if many are unaware that they are selling that what they are selling has been cut with the drug. So the people, is he arguing that the people selling heroin in Florida that's laced with fentanyl and then the drug user dies? Well, they didn't know there was fentanyl in it. He was a good boy. He was only trying to sell heroin. What the hell kind of logic is this? I'm just curious. He continues. Now this is so woke. I can't even feign sleep right now. You should know, too, that fentanyl is an FDA-approved opioid medication used in the treatment of severe pain in the United States. The drug has been used for this purpose for more than 50 years. It even comes with a child-friendly sweetened lollipop formulation. Fentanyl is a safe and effective medication when used as prescribed. At least he added that part. So what does 11 nanograms of fentanyl tell us about Mr. Floyd's mental and physical state? Movements before his death? Not much, because the same amount of fentanyl that produces pleasure in a tolerant user can result in an overdose in an infrequent user. Oh, I bet, is he going to say that because Floyd was a frequent user, he probably built up a tolerance to fentanyl? I'm just curious. I haven't read the whole thing. I saw at the beginning of this and started laughing. So what does it say about Floyd's mental physical state? That's why, together with the toxicology report, we have to interpret Mr. Floyd's behavior shortly before he was killed, which is a barometer of a person's impairment. We saw that he was emotionally appropriate and behaving rationally, considering the circumstances. Was he now? I've seen several, oh my God, really? Fighting not to be put into a police car and saying he couldn't breathe and going to demanding to be laid on the ground. I'm not sure what the definition of rationally here. When he's being arrested, is that struggling with the officers? Is that rationally? I don't know. We saw that he's emotionally appropriate and behaving rationally considering the circumstances. Minute before his encounter with police, he purchased an item from the deli and was about to leave when officers asked him to get out of the car where he was sitting with his drug dealer, and the person who called the police from the drugstore said he was acting strange. I don't know, emotionally appropriate and behaving rationally? Okay. Together, these observations suggest he had developed some level of tolerance to fentanyl-related effects and show how unlikely it is that drugs played a role in his death. People on the verge of dying from an opioid overdose are inactive and look visibly drowsy. He was neither. Instead, videos show Mr. Chauvin callously pressing his knee into Mr. Floyd's neck as he repeatedly yelled out, "I can't breathe," a rational reaction. Didn't he yell out? And yell out, you said. I don't think he was yelling, but if you can, the other part too, I can't breathe. What was the paramedics saying? If you can talk, you can breathe. How can he be yelling out? If he's yelling, and they say yelling out, "I can't breathe." So apparently he could breathe. Now, was he having shortness of breath because his lungs were filling up, or was it because someone was at his knee on his neck and shoulders or whatever they're going to call it? You can call it what you want. I'll take your word for it. And also, what about when he was saying I couldn't breathe twice before, once before he was put in the car and once he got in the car? Why was he yelling, "I can't breathe" then? That's the problem. That's going to be the reasonable doubt. Couldn't breathe before he was in that prone position on the ground. Anyway, oh my God. Instead, okay, so and then he has the callously pressing his knee into Mr. Floyd's neck as he repeatedly yelled, I can't breathe, a rational reaction, until he became unresponsive while two other officers helped pin him down by applying a pressure to his back. Two different medical examiners, one from the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office and one hired by Mr. Floyd's family, classified Mr. Floyd's death a homicide, corroborating what we all saw with our own eyes. Okay, so they considered that he was killed by another person. Except the Hennepin County Medical Examiner said that if he had not known any of the circumstances, he would have labeled it a drug overdose. Reasonable doubt is all that's necessary in a criminal trial. Quote, but if history is any indication, medical documentation and video evidence may not be enough to refute racist drug mythology.
That's racist!
You mean like when he almost died the last time he overdosed? In the early 20th century, the white establishment increasingly viewed drug use by racial minorities as a threat to the social order. Prominent newspapers, physicians, and politicians peddled lurid, false stories about Chinese opium den owners inducing white women into their establishments to defile them. Officials concocted tales about black men who took cocaine turning into homicidal criminals impervious to bullets and forcing white women into prostitution. Others promoted incredible stories about black and Mexican American marijuana users as violent crimes. These fabrications facilitated passage of the country's first nationwide drug laws. Now, what's interesting about that, I've seen, what's that movie about marijuana, like Reefer Madness? There wasn't a single black person in that movie. It was all about crazed white people smoking pot, which, you know, it's hilarious now watching that movie because it's just so off the rail, you know, because personally, I would prefer if criminals were high all the time because they'd be less aggressive and maybe would decide to get some chips instead of, robbing a store. But anyway, some version of this played out defense. Okay. I'm sorry. Others promoted incredible stories about black. Okay, I said that. The racialized, drug-crazed rhetoric, including his overdose a week earlier, of the past has not passed. It is revitalized with each new generation. Is it though? Really? I mean, come on. It's not like now. I'm of that ilk that says Chauvin is probably guilty of negligent homicide, right? So I'm not saying he should even be not guilty on all charges. Although the argument is that the reason they didn't try to help him is because there were a crowd gathering that was an imminent threat to the officers, which who knows how the jury is going to see that. The crowd they showed didn't seem that thick, although they did have the one MMA fighter saying that he was going to he was threatening to whoop their ass or something or other and calling him tough guy and shit. Thank you, Gamer Valine, help us out through Super Chat, the little sponsorship there, who says functional tolerance and physical tolerance are two different things, but they want to correlate them with this in the same category. Exactly. And thank you, Gamer Valine. Also, good morning. Now what? My friend Woo's in the house, and also hello, Snoopy, and also Jonas Pedersen. Welcome to the show. So anyways, some version of this played out defense, I don't know if it's played out, whatever, was put forth when former Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson shot and killed teenager Michael Brown. Wow. Teenager Michael Brown. You mean the same kid that had done a strong arm robbery a few minutes earlier? I'm just curious. This very innocent and meek, tiny little teenager. When former Chicago police officer Jason Van Dyke shot and killed teenager Laquan McDonald, who he got prosecuted and sent to jail, when former Minneapolis police officer Jerome Yanez shot and killed defenseless Philando Castile, who had a gun in his lap. Now, granted, this seems to be an error on that officer's part as far as I'm concerned, but still, defenseless. The guy with the licensed gun in his lap during the stop. Defenseless. Yes, he was defenseless. And when former Tulsa police officer Betty Jo Shelby shot and killed a non-threatening Terrence Crutcher. Oh my God, Terrence Crutcher, who they told him to stop over and over and over, and then he reached into his vehicle. I'm sorry, gang, when someone, officers are trained, if someone reaches into their vehicle, that's it. You don't take a chance. You don't know what they're reaching for unless they're telling you, and he'd been told to stop several times. Was it? Oh my God. Drugs did not, and he was high as fuck too. He was on his toxicology report. Woo. Anyway, not Michael Brown. I don't think was though. And I don't know about Laquan McDonald. I don't know those guys. And Philando Castile. I don't know if he was high, but his girlfriend certainly was. Drugs did not contribute to any of these individuals' death. Sorry. Terrence Crutcher, probably. That's probably why he wasn't responding to police officers in a reasonable manner. Drugs did not contribute to any of these individuals' deaths, but officers' depraved indifference for black life certainly did. Oh, did it? That's an opinion that I just don't buy this. Look, I could give you dozens of examples. When it's not black people, the same shit happens. Now, is it officers depraved? What did he say? Depraved indifference for life? It's possible some, but you're categorizing every officer in the country who has gone through this. You think they enjoy killing people? Does anyone? I'm sure there's plenty of people who believe this. I don't believe that police officers in general, as a group, or any individual, I think it'd be a very rare police officer who enjoys killing somebody. I would think that would be one of the most, it would be a fairly traumatic experience for any police officer. Do you think the woman who shot Dante, I don't know, I can't remember the last name off the top of my head, in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, or Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, do you think she is celebrating the fact that she killed that young man? Because her reaction after she did it didn't seem like it. And I'm pretty sure in her resignation, she probably regrets it. I think she should be charged with negligence, homicide, whatever the charge is, that, involuntary manslaughter, whatever, because of her mistake. Do you think she's overjoyed because she killed somebody? This is so inflammatory. It's amazing. And the Vox readers are eating it up, I bet. For centuries, the myth of the, and again, he said earlier, quote, drug-crazed Negro. Who's he quoting when he says that? For centuries, the myth of the drug-crazed Negro has exonerated police from barbaric killings of black Americans. Now, some officers go to jail. The guy who killed Scott down in South Carolina, he's in jail. They're in jail. There's some in jail. This will change when the humanity of people who look like George Floyd is valued by the dominant culture equally to that of white women. It will not change a minute sooner. Yeah. This is it's just designed to inflame, and that's what we're getting right now from everybody. Fascinating. All right. I'm running out of time here. What's really behind the GOT? Oh, Now we're back. It is Woke Wednesday. Now we want to. CNN put out an article. What's really behind the GOP attacks on transgender athletes? Is that what this is? It's an attack on transgender athletes. And what? You surely read about girls' sports recently. State legislatures across the country have introduced dozens of bills that would bar transgender girls from competing in girls' sports based on the misguided concern that their participation would somehow hurt their cisgender teammates and competitors. Okay. Is there any evidence of that? Is there any evidence that, is there, I know there are studies out there. Now, of course, some of them are push studies or studies with an intent to show otherwise. But anyway, it is a claim. Okay, now this is the funny thing. This is Joe Kennedy, one of the Kennedy clan. Joe Kennedy's former congressman from Massachusetts, served as the chair of the Trans Equality Task Force in the House of Representatives for 4 years. I didn't know there was a Trans Equality Task Force. The opinions expressed in this commentary belong to the author. But it's published on CNN. Interesting. He says it introduced dozens of bills that would bar transgender girls from competing in girls' sports. Well, if they're transgender girls, what's the difference between a transgender girl and a girl? Because you seem to qualify one from the other. It's a claim. And then, okay, let me go back to this sentence. State legislatures across the country have introduced dozens of bills that would bar transgender girls from competing in girls' sports based on the misguided concern that their participation would somehow hurt their cisgender teammates and competitors. That's an interesting way to phrase that. Because what was Title IX for? I can't remember. Anyone know what Title IX was for? Okay, I'm being facetious. I know what it's for. It is a claim so absurd, you almost have to laugh at first. Really? Why? Why would you laugh? School districts, colleges, and the NCAA have protocols in place to ensure fair treatment for kids of all genders and gender identities. One of the plaintiffs who recently filed a lawsuit in Connecticut alleging that transgender girls have an advantage over cisgender girls went on to defeat one of the trans athletes targeted in the lawsuit just days after it was filed. So what? So what if... Okay, so she... beat a transgender athlete, but what about all the other? She came in third. She came in second or third, and the one of the trans athletes came in like fourth. But the other trans athlete came in first by a long shot. And does that hurt maybe the girl who came in fifth or sixth or ninth or 12th? Because suddenly a transgender athlete who has not, these are in Connecticut, the first time they competed, they hadn't gone on any hormones yet. But suddenly they're in the top echelon of all athletes. Now, sure, it may not affect the top, very, very tippy top of the girls' echelon of athletes. But what about in general? Whatever. It's an unfair advantage, and it's something they need to figure out. In some cases they require 2 years of being on hormones before you could compete in athletics, like the Olympics does. And I still think there's a problem. But as you shake your head at the GOP's craven ploy, what craven? How? Look, let's not cast aspersions on people's motives, okay? It's not a craven ploy. If you think the GOP or anyone who would propose not allowing trans athletes to compete against girls because they believe in their heart that it is an unfair advantage, that's not a craven ploy. That's just something they believe, and there's some evidence to back it. And if it's the other way around, I don't believe that there's some evil ploy by people who want to allow trans athletes to compete in their new gender. I they want to try to be fair to trans athletes. Everyone wants to be fair to athletes in this case. They just have a different opinion. It's not craven. It's not evil. I don't think it's evil on either side of this. So stop with that bullshit. Thank you, Johnny Hellcat, for sponsoring the show. Title IX was created to make it easier for girls to kick boys out of school, regardless of if they actually did anything. Everyone knows that. Well, not exactly, but I'm going to give you a bell anyway. Okay. Thank you, Johnny Hellcat, for sponsoring the show. Anyway, but as you shake your head of the GOP's craven ploy, I'm not shaking my head, Joe. Sorry. I'd urge you to also stop and remember your own teenage years, how critical sports and or other curriculars were to your sense of belonging and self, the development of your confidence, your friendships and support structures, all things our country still systemically denies transgender Americans to a sickening degree. I don't give a shit about your emotional argument, Joe. Okay, I am more interested in what's fair to young athletes. And in many cases, in that case in Connecticut, where the two transgender girls had not gone through any treatment for their dysphoria, or whatever they're calling it these days. I'm still calling it dysphoria because I may not know any better. The two girls who suddenly, one of whom was running on the boys track team a year earlier, was suddenly one of the top female, not female, because she's not a female, it's male, but a girl. Get the distinction. What all of a sudden was the top female girl athlete. See, I can't even stop saying it. Top girl athlete in the state in her particular competition in track. Fascinating. Oh, the second I switched she was on the boys track team a year earlier, and then as a freshman or sophomore, whatever, she wasn't even a senior. She was a sophomore and won state the next year after she decided that she was a girl, or after she realized she was a girl. I don't want to be disrespectful. So from boys track team to top athlete in her event. Wow, that's really weird. That in that light, you realize that this effort is not ludicrous, but deeply intentional from a Republican Party that sees political gain in the further exploitation of marginalized people. I thought women and girls were marginalized people. Seems like they're protecting a certain segment of women and girls. What a bullshit article. And I'm not going to read it anymore. Because he's treating this as though one side is doing this for evil and one side is doing this for good. Are we allowed to disagree with this? Or are we automatically? So this is just an editorial painting other people as evil because they have a difference of opinion, and it certainly has a certain basis in science. What an asshole. Let's move on. Former Minneapolis police officer said that he would quit. Oh, he quit. He did quit days before the Derek Chauvin trial because he thinks protesters will burn the city down no matter the case's outcome. Well, insider spoke to a former Minneapolis police officer who quit 2 days before the Derek Chauvin trial. He said he believed rioting would break out at the close of the trial and he feared getting killed. Well, that's not good. Chauvin's trial over George Floyd began March 29th, and witnesses have been testifying. I don't need to read the article. It's just fascinating that officer quitting because of that. Fantastic. Greg Popovich. My God. Let's talk about Mr. Woke Greg Popovich. And let's just listen to he's speaking out again because this happened again, as if there are no circumstances of why this might have happened. And hey, look, I feel awful in this case of Dante Wright. didn't need to die. Clearly an accident. I believe she's liable in involuntary manslaughter. Let's not pretend Dante Wright didn't have a hand in his own demise, although it probably shouldn't have it should not have been his demise, but let's not pretend that that this happened for no reason whatsoever. Okay? I'm not condemning him, but you have to acknowledge his role in his own demise. And it's not a case of this, he's shot because he was black, or they were hunting him down because he was black. No. And if you believe that he was shot because he is black, I have a lesser opinion of you. I'm not going to say what I want to say here. But here's Greg Popovich giving his woke bona fides.
Just makes you sick to your stomach. You know, it's how many times does it have to happen? And, you know,
Shout. Oh, hang on.
As sick to our stomachs as we might feel. You know, that individual's dead.
Yes, he is.
He's dead. And his family is grieving. His friends are grieving. And we just keep moving on.
No, we haven't kept moving on. What are you talking about? Are you paying attention to the news? Because you only know what happens in the news, obviously. You only see the cases that they bring up and they talk about over and over and over again, even though some of them are 7, 8, 9 years old. Because you know of the few cases, the man bite dog events that get publicized. And so you're only seeing those events. You've never done any research on this, have you, Pop? Have you really actually done research on this, Pop? No, the fact that you even said, well, we're just moving on. No, we're not. Riots in Minneapolis. Police chief resigned. City manager fired. Police officer resigned. City officer probably going to be charged with involuntary manslaughter or something. City changes complete system of how they run their police department. No longer in charge. The city manager's no longer in charge, but the mayor's taken over because the city council took some action to fire the city manager. What are you talking about? We're just moving on. We're talking about it every day, including during the middle of a George Floyd trial. Or not George Floyd. He's not on trial. Derek Chauvin trial. What do you mean we just move on?
As if nothing's happened.
As if nothing's happened. Really? Really? How many things have happened in the 3 days? How many different things have happened regarding that? What do you mean we've moved on? We haven't.
You know, I've said it before. I think we're already in the process of being Rome. It's over. Unless we find some leadership, some common sense, and some fiber, and some people that can steer us in the right direction.
Explain what that means, Pop. Coach us, please. Help us out.
It's all connected. It's the same.
No, it's not.
Feeling we have with guns and the massacres. You know, we see what's happening with policing.
What are you seeing, Pop?
Black men, middle-aged black, doesn't matter. Black men.
Because you only see the cases because the only ones that are publicized are the ones with black men. You know what? I've been talking about this. And I was listening to Jeff Charles the other day, and he was saying, because I don't think the state should be able to kill you for stupid shit. I also don't think officers should be able to be forced to be, I think they have a right to defend themselves. Okay. I think in this case, it was an accident, not, I think she should be prosecuted. Okay. Now it's not on a murder charge, but clearly you can tell from the beginning she made a mistake. Right. But the problem is we have this perception in this country that this is that we're being told. We're told, celebrities and news people, that they're hunting down black men, that I should be fearful of police because they're only going to kill me. That this only happens to black men, that if you get in an encounter with a police officer, you're going to be killed, when this is a rare event in relevance to the number of police interactions there are with people. If this was the common way that police handle black men, how are there so many black men in jail? You know, and the idea that this doesn't happen to white people or Hispanic people or anybody else, I can give you a list. In fact, the Washington Post has a running list since 2015 of every person that is killed by a police officer. It's about 55% white, about 30% black, about 24% Hispanic or something like that. And then the rest are, they say unknown. Now, are black people overrepresented in that compared to population? Yes, but not overrepresented in relation to crimes committed. And it's not that, I hear this stupid argument, well, 50% of all violent crimes are committed by 12% of the population. No, they're not. 50% of the crimes in America are committed by an extremely small subset of people in my demographic. Not by 12%, not the entire demographic, but half to 1.5% of people in that demographic are committing those crimes. But guess what? That is a majority of those crimes by that tiny, tiny subset of my demographic. So, and guess what? I'm not committing, I don't live in it. I don't even, oh my God. So anyway, but guess what? We're also the victims of those crimes. From that very small percentage of my demographic. 1 in 5 were black in 2017. 1 in 5 what? Just put it in the regular chat. Thank you, Johnny Hellcat, for continuing sponsorship of the show. 1 in 5. Oh, 1 in 5 people killed by police. Yeah, well, it's a little more than that. I think it's 1 in 4 now. Or it's a little bit more. But in any case, now, and then you got to remember, vast majority of those people killed by police, it's not like they were just walking down the street pushing a stroller. Vast majority, either in firefights or driving a car at them or attacking with a knife, it's self-defense for the most part. And in certain cases, even an unarmed person being killed can be justified. For example, I was reading a case, and it was a white man who was unarmed, killed by the police. He was unarmed because he got in his vehicle and attempted to drive over an officer, and they shot him to death. White guy. Oh my gosh, I bet you didn't hear about it though. That's not one that gets promoted because right now the narrative is unarmed black man killed by police. A total of 9 last year. Out of all the people killed by police last year. 9 were unarmed black men. I think 20 were unarmed white men. But sometimes it happens. And it's or right now, I think George Floyd's included in that list from this year, right? He'll be included in that list, or from last year, last year. He's included in that list. Did the officers kill him? Did the officer kill him? Is the question that's being asked right now. Maybe, maybe not. So anyway, I'm not going to play the rest of Pop Bitches. You can watch the rest yourself. I'm going to give a whole bunch of articles I left out today. Other things. Governor in settles campaign with campaign settles with ex-posters. So Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, I believe of New Mexico, paid a settlement of $62,500 from a staff member who accused her of sexual mistreatment after a staff meeting, according to documents filed Monday. The governor of New Mexico apparently grabbed him by the nuggets after she fondled his nuggets after a meeting, and she had to pay a settlement Go figure. Hello, Humble Clay. Hello, Asian Research Directorate. You can read the article. There's a settlement. And here's this next one. I'm just going to go through these quick because I'm out of time. The next one here, I wasn't sure if this was satire or not, even though it's from the Babylon Bee. Media relieved to be covering the good kind of riots again. Oh, yeah. Media organizations across the country announced today they are relieved to be covering the good kind of riots again now that people are looting Target for justice again instead of protesting their government. Anyway, funny article. Moving on. That is satire, even though it seems like it's not. Nolte from Breitbart says the head of New York BLM is calling for an investigation into BLM's co-founder's $1 million home purchases. Yeah, Patrice Khan. She's spelled a Khan, but I think it's spelled C-O-N, Coolers or Colors. Spent $3.2 million on homes in predominantly white neighborhoods, and the head of BLM New York is asking for an investigation. Now, I got to say something about this. Her only income isn't just from raising funds for BLM. By the way, she has some kind of movie deal with Warner Brothers or Netflix or somebody. I'm sure they paid her in advance. She also makes money from, what was the other thing she makes money from? It was in here somewhere. She made $20,000 a month being on some kind of panel for a short period of time because, here, let's see. Is it in here? Oh, here it is. Come on, get off my screen, Kamala Harris. Why do you keep putting Kamala Harris in these ads and pictures and things when you have pop-ups? Why is it always her and not the president? Are we foreshadowing? She raked in $20,000 a month as chairwoman of a jail reform group. Oh my gosh, grievance grifting be very, very good to me. Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation co-founder Patrice Khan Cullors raked in upwards of $20,000 a month serving as the chairwoman of a Los Angeles jail reform group in 2019 campaign finance records show. Reform LA Jails paid Cullors through her consulting firm, Janaya and Patrice Consulting, a total of $191,000. The records show Cullors purchased a $1.4 million white majority. Okay, we know she bought a home, but so it's not just BLM, but her grievance grifting has shot her to the top echelon of earners. She is part of the 1%. Did you know that? She's making lots of bank off this BLM and grievance grifting shit. It's amazing. Anyway, there's an article about that. Also, another article about her buying her homes. She's getting criticism, but they responded to the criticism. BLM has responded because she says it's a right-wing offenses, which continues a tradition of terror by white supremacists. Hey, you know who else is criticizing her? Several Black Lives Matter chapters around the country. They are not happy with the national organization. In recent days, Black Lives Matter co-founder Patrice Khan Cullors has been facing a severe backlash after news broke of a real estate buying binge that saw the high-profile racial justice grievance grifter snagging 4 high-end homes for $3.2 million in the U.S. alone. Oh, she also bought a home in the Bahamas. In like someplace, I think it's near Justin Timberlake's place in the Bahamas. Anyway, justice questions mount about how National Black Lives Matter spent tens of millions it collected in 2020. Khan Cullors splashed out millions on 4 homes, totaling of $3.2 million. In response, Black Lives Matter movement released a statement on Twitter on Tuesday saying that Patrice Cullors is the executive director of Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation and that she serves in this role in a volunteer capacity and does not receive a salary or benefits. Well, where does she have income from then? Just wondering. Oh yeah, she gets paid consultant fees. She's like Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton, and goes out and makes money on some other things. She gets to consult. She made $191,000 last year from the city of Los Angeles. Are you kidding me? What was that number? Here, where is it? BLM. $191,000 in 2019. Just on that consulting job alone. She does more than consulting for there. Anyway, here's their statement. Oh, maybe. And I'm going to finish on this one. Here's their statement. You can read the other articles in the tabs. Patrice Cullors is the executive director of Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. She serves in this role as a volunteer capacity and does not receive a salary or benefits. Patrice has received a total of $120,000 since the organization's inception in 2013 for duties such as serving as a spokesman and engaging in political education work. Patrice did not receive any compensation after 2019. Okay, she's not taking it from BLM. To be abundantly clear, as a registered 501c3, BLM GNF cannot and did not commit any organizational resources toward the purchase of personal property by any employee or volunteer. Any insinuation or assertion to the contrary is categorically false. Patrice's work for Black people over the years has made her and others who align with the fight for Black liberation targets of racist violence. Really? I haven't seen it yet. I think she's well protected. Anyway, the narratives being spread about Patrice have been generated by right-wing forces and other BLM chapters intent on reducing the support and influence of the movement that is larger than any one organization. This right-wing offensive not only puts Patrice, her child, and her loved ones in harm's way, it also continues a tradition of terror by white supremacists against Black activists. All Black activists know the fear these malicious and serious actions are meant to instill, the fear of being silenced, the trauma of being targeted, the torture of feeling one's family is exposed to danger for just speaking out against unjust systems. We have seen this tactic of terror time and time again, but our movement will not be silenced, and our leader will get a big fat paycheck from Warner Brothers for movie deals. That's where money's coming from. That's how she bought the houses, I bet. Anyway. And then Black Lives Matter just has a whole thread of what they're saying here. So there you go. Anyway. All right, gang. There's a whole bunch of other articles, but I don't have time to even tell you the headlines. So how about we call it a day? Before you do anything, though, stop! Don't click yet! Until you click that like button, do not leave the room, please. And thank you for being here today on the Morning Night Live. I'm here Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central, 1500 GMT for my friends in the other parts of the world. And before you go, hit the like button, share the stream out, hit the share arrow or put it up on social media. You can follow me at PDawgKnight on most social media or other, what do you call them? Video channels. I'm pretty much linked up to all of them, and if I put a video out, I put them out on all of them. Also, if you'd like to make other contributions to the show, there's ways to do that. You can find that in the description down below. SuperChats, Streamlabs, Venmo, and Cashapp. And finally, if you're watching on replay, put a comment in the comment section. In fact, if you're watching right now, come back and put a comment in the comment section. And right after the show, during the outro, I will put links to all of these articles in one single tab link in the description down below. So hang out for the outro, and I will update that, or I will let you know when I've completed that link. So thanks everybody. I hope you have a fantastic day. See you tomorrow. My name is PDawgKnight, and I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Hey, this is PDawgKnight, and thank you for watching today on the PDawgKnight channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterwards so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all the supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through Streamlabs, YouTube, Venmo, and Cashapp, which are all linked in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm PDawgKnight, and I'm out of here.